Hello class, Mr. Guarino here. In this video I'm going to illustrate how to make or create ovals in Adobe Animate 2022. So if you don't see the oval tool, then you probably have the rectangle tool selected. It's a tool slot, so remember, click, hold down and choose oval tool. Now I have my fill set to blue, my stroke set to red, my stroke size a little small at 1. Let me make it 6. So now when I draw an oval, I can do that. So I drew an oval. Something I didn't show you with the rectangle tool is if you want to constrain this to be a circle, which we often want to do, then you just hold down the shift key. So right now I'm going to drag an oval, but then I'm going to press shift and notice how it jumps to a circle. No matter how I drag, I cannot drag and get anything but a circle. The rectangle tool works the same way, but it's just not as obvious, I guess, because if you want to draw a square, I mean, it's a little bit easier to know it's a square. I mean, it might not be an exact square. So really, it's a rectangle. If you hold down shift, it becomes a square. Okay? So, but let's focus on the oval tool now. And I guess I showed you that just because constraining to a circle, I guess, is popular or common. All right, so let's go back to the oval tool. And actually, let's go to select tool. If I click on this, you'll notice that when I click on it, I had a setting kind of wrong, or maybe really the way I didn't want it. It's a little hard to see this box, and I didn't go over it with the rectangles because when you click on a rectangle, it's kind of there, but it's hard to see. But with a circle or an oval, it's very obvious that there's this box around it. That's not the most normal way to draw in Adobe Animate. The most normal way to draw is when you have a drawing tool selected, is to make sure this button is not highlighted. It's very subtle, at least to me. So right now it's got sort of like a light gray around it. If I click it, and it puts that blue because it's just been clicked, but if I click away, you'll see it doesn't have the light gray around it. If I click it again, it's got sort of that light gray, and if I click it again, it's got that dark gray. So to me, that's very subtle. But anyway, not having the light gray is the standard way and the way you'll probably draw most things. And here's the difference. So now I'm going to draw another oval, which of course looks a lot like a circle. Now if I go to my select tool and click on it, you'll notice I didn't get that blue binding box. What I got was what I showed you with the rectangles. But the reason why I didn't show you this binding box with the rectangles is, as I said, it's extremely hard to know and see what you're talking about. But with a circle, it jumps right out at you. So these are the two different types of drawing modes. We'll go into that a bit more detail later on. But the main thing is this, when you click it, it selects the whole thing and the whole thing moves together. This, when you click it, you can choose just to fill and move that. I'll undo that with Control Z. Or you can double click and move it all together. I think I showed you this with the rectangles because you can click the fill and just move the fill if you want. And then I'll undo that as well. So that's the difference between those two different drawing modes. We'll go into it more detail later. So in this video, I want to focus on the oval tool, but I introduced that different type of drawing mode so that you would, because now you can actually see the blue rectangle. When you're over here, it's like really hard to see. So can't really show it on rectangles. All right, so the other thing you can do with when you're going to draw a oval, you can change the style of the stroke. Maybe make it dashed if you want. So you get something a little bumpy on the edge. You can also change the inner radius. So you can have an inner radius. So you can make it like a piece of tubing or a donut, whatever you want to call it. Let's put this style back to the standard style. And now let's change the angle. So we can actually have a start angle and an end angle. And if I draw it, you get something like that. So it's starting at 32 and it's ending at 134 and has an inner radius of 22. Let me drag that back and do another one. So we just get this like, I don't know, little wedge. Now let's change this to maybe like more like, I don't know, about 330. Ah, look at that. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Like Pac-Man, of course. So you could animate Pac-Man just by drawing an oval. So why are these tools used? You'd be surprised what you can do. It's like, oh, why are we drawing rectangles? Why are we drawing circles? I mean, basic shapes, yeah, but you could make things out of them that are shapes that people would recognize, and you could animate them. Okay, so that's the options there. You also have, let me zoom in to show you. So Control plus, and then the space bar with the mouse click and drag to move it up. Go back and select this. Maybe select it all by double clicking. You do have these options right here. You notice the edge gets flattened, the edge gets pointy, the edge is rounded, just like the rectangle. I don't know if I can click a piece. Yeah, you can click a piece. So if I delete that, you can also click on this, and then you can change how the end of the line is terminated. Right, we went over that with the rectangle, but just to show you, it's the same thing with the ovals. Control minus to zoom out, maybe too far, so Control plus, space bar with the mouse, click and drag to center it. And let's see, and then the oval primitive. So click and hold down, oval primitive. So now I have everything here 0, got the same fill and stroke. Let's change that so we know these are the primitive ones. So these are going to have the green inside. So there's an oval primitive. Oval primitive you can adjust afterwards. The oval you cannot. So right now I can't go in and like change this angle that I created it at. It's whatever I created it at and it stays there. But the primitive ones you actually can. So if I click on this and I go over here and click and hold, I can drag it. Now I'm actually on my selection tool, but I should really be on my sub-selection tool because that works better for this. This time I'm just going to hold the space bar and it's the space control and roll the mouse wheel to drag to zoom in. Just a different way to do it. I can grab here. Remember, if you got the white arrow, then you're moving the whole thing. You have to get that little black arrow so you can adjust. And then I can come in here and adjust too. I can't go past this point because then that doesn't make any sense. The lines are going to extend past where they're connected. But I can go over here and separate. Right, and I can drag this back and forth. So you can put in the numbers, or you could, do it manually if you wanted to make a Pac-Man thing. Okay, so that's the difference between oval and oval primitive. You might say, gee, like, what's the big deal about that? Well, we'll see in a separate video, what the difference is between the two, or in a future video, and how, why you should use one over the other. Actually, the primitive ones, I don't know, I think most people do these, and like I said, the drawing mode, most people use this drawing mode. Notice that, let me go back to my selection tool. When I click on something I've drawn as a primitive, I can't do the fill and the stroke like I did with this one that's not a primitive. So this pretty much, not pretty much, when you do a primitive, it defaults to the drawing mode where you get the bounding box. When you do one that's not a primitive, you get the other drawing mode unless you specifically change it. So over here you don't even have that option with the primitive, but with the regular oval tool, that's where you get this option of if you want it to be an object drawing mode, or I think historically they used to call it merge drawing mode, and we'll see why they called it merge drawing mode in a future video. So now that we have some ovals drawn, that's all you have to do. Draw a bunch of ovals, constrain them to be circles, make Pac-Man if you like, draw whatever you like, whatever colors you like, make a bunch of them, and then save it.